Commander Alan Woods stood at the observatory window of the International Space Station and watched the alien ships approach. They were unlike anything humans had built, with smooth, curved surfaces that reflected the sunlight in ways that made them seem almost alive. 5 of them hung in Earth orbit now, having appeared at the edge of the solar system just 3 days ago. Their arrival had changed everything. "Commander, the Secretary General is requesting your presence at the emergency." "Briefing," said Lieutenant Harris, his voice tight with tension. Alan nodded and followed the lieutenant through the station's corridors. Every screen they passed showed the same images, the alien vessels and the frantic news coverage from Earth below. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer. The briefing room was crowded with military officials and scientists. Secretary General Nicole Garcia stood at the center, her face showing the strain of 3 sleepless nights. "Commander Woods," she said when she saw him, "you've been selected as our diplomatic liaison to the visitors." Alan felt his heart rate spike. "Ma'am? Why me? Your background in both naval diplomacy and combat leadership makes you uniquely qualified. We need someone who can extend a hand in peace, but who also understands how to protect Earth if necessary." A woman with dark-rimmed glasses stepped forward. "I'll be working with you, Dr. Samantha Bell, Xenolinguistics." She offered her hand. "I've been analyzing the mathematical sequences they've been broadcasting. I believe I've developed a translation." Matrix. Within hours, Alan and Samantha were aboard a shuttle heading toward the largest alien vessel. The craft was enormous up close, at least 5 times the size of the largest human spaceship. Its surface rippled with subtle colors that seemed to respond to their approach. "Remember," said Samantha quietly as their shuttle docked, "we represent all of humanity now." Alan adjusted his uniform. "No pressure, right?" The airlock cycled and they stepped into the alien ship. The air was breathable but carried a faint scent like cinnamon. The corridor walls glowed with soft light and the floor felt slightly springy beneath their boots. 3 figures waited for them. The aliens stood nearly 7 feet tall, with slender bodies covered in what looked like iridescent scales. Their eyes were large and completely black, set in triangular faces with no visible nose or mouth. They wore what appeared to be ceremonial armor of some kind, decorated with symbols Alan couldn't begin to understand. Dr. Bell activated her translation device. "Greetings, we come as representatives of Earth and humanity. We welcome you in peace." The tallest alien stepped forward. When it spoke, the sound was like distant wind chimes, but the translation device converted it to English. "I am High Marshal Vexcor of the Araxian Confederacy. We have observed your world for some time. Your development has reached a point where formal contact is now appropriate." Alan noticed how carefully the alien had phrased this. They had been watching Earth? For how long? "We're honored to establish relations with your people," Alan said. "Our leaders have formed an interstellar relations committee to facilitate our discussions." Vexcor tilted his head slightly. "Acceptable. We will share knowledge of the galaxy with you. There is much you do not know." The initial meeting lasted 3 hours. The Araxians explained they controlled territory spanning hundreds of star systems. They described technologies humans had only dreamed of: faster-than-light travel, gravity manipulation, energy production that made fusion look primitive. As they returned to their shuttle, Samantha looked troubled. "What's wrong?" Alan asked. "Did you notice how they avoided discussing other species?" "I asked 3 different questions about their relations with other civilizations, and each time they redirected the conversation." Alan nodded. "I caught that too. And they were very interested in our military capabilities. Not in an obvious way, but the questions about our resource distribution, our power grid, our satellite network. Back on Earth, the United Nations headquarters in Geneva had become the center of Earth's response to the Araxians. For weeks, delegations traveled between Earth and the alien ships. The Araxians offered technological knowledge in exchange for cultural artifacts and raw materials. They seemed particularly interested in Earth art, music, and literature. Admiral Paul Jones cornered Alan after one briefing. The older man's face was set in hard lines. I don't trust them, Woods. They're holding back. Sir, look at these sensor readings from their ships. Power levels that fluctuate in patterns consistent with weapon systems. Why would diplomatic vessels need that kind of firepower? Alan had similar concerns but played devil's advocate. We wouldn't send unarmed ships to meet an unknown species either. There's caution, and then there's what they're packing, Jones said. Just keep your eyes open up there. The next meeting took place on the Araxian vessel orbiting Mars. This time, Alan and Samantha were joined by Ambassador Greg Holden, a seasoned diplomat. The Araxians showed them technology that could terraform Mars in decades rather than centuries, offering it as a gesture of goodwill. Your species shows unusual adaptability, said Vexcor. Most races we encounter are more specialized, more limited in their thinking. Is that a compliment? Asked Ambassador Holden. An observation, Vexcor replied. You may find it useful to know how you appear to others in the galaxy. After 2 months of talks, Samantha made a breakthrough with the translation system. She pulled Alan aside after a meeting, her eyes wide with excitement. I've decoded more of their language subtleties. There are layers we were missing. When Vexcor talks about observation and appropriate contact, there are connotations we weren't catching. What kind of connotations? Alan asked. The kind that suggests we're being evaluated, tested even. And I'm not sure we want to know what happens if we fail their test. That night, as Alan reviewed the meeting recordings in his quarters, an emergency alert sounded. A small Araxian scout ship had entered Earth's atmosphere without permission and hovered over the Pacific Ocean for 20 minutes before returning to space. When questioned, Vexcor called it a navigation error. Secretary General Garcia wasn't satisfied. We're accelerating our defense preparations, she told Alan privately. The scientific teams are studying every bit of technology the Araxians have. Shared, looking for applications they might not have intended to give us. 6 months after first contact, humanity had learned much about the galaxy, but little about the Araxians themselves. They remained formal, reserved, and oddly interested in Earth's military history. They requested tours of historical battlefields and access to military archives, always explaining it as cultural interest. Then came the invitation. The Araxians offered to bring a small human delegation to visit their homeworld. It was unprecedented. They had never before allowed humans aboard their vessels except for the designated meeting rooms. As their transport ship accelerated beyond the solar system. Using Araxian FTL technology for the first time, Alan watched Earth shrink to a tiny blue dot and then disappear entirely. He couldn't shake the feeling that humanity had reached a point of no return. Whatever the Araxians really wanted, they would soon find out. The peaceful option was still on the table. Alan hoped it would stay there. The journey to the Araxian homeworld took 3 weeks in their faster-than-light vessel. Alan spent most of that time studying the limited information they had on the aliens. Dr. Samantha Bell worked constantly on improving her translation system. The small human delegation also included Captain Lavara Miller, who commanded their transport, and Dr. Kevin Rivera, a xenobiologist eager to study Araxian physiology. We're approaching the Araxian system, Captain Miller announced one morning. The humans gathered at the observation deck. Through the viewport, they saw a massive blue-green planet orbited by 3 moons. Hundreds of ships moved around the planet like bees around a hive. Their fleet is enormous, Alan whispered. What he saw made Earth's combined space forces look like toys in comparison. The Araxian homeworld was beautiful from orbit, but even more stunning from the surface. The delegation was taken to a city of towering crystal structures that caught the light of the planet's sun and broke it into rainbows. The air smelled sweet, and the gravity was slightly lighter than Earth. S. High Marshal Vexcor personally led their tour. Our civilization has existed for 50,000 of your Earth years, he explained. We have brought order to many worlds. Many worlds? Dr. Rivera asked. How many species are part of your confederacy? 37 distinct intelligent species currently benefit from our protection. Vexcor replied. Alan noticed the choice of words. Not allies, not partners, but species that benefit from protection. He exchanged a glance with Samantha, who had clearly caught the same thing. Their quarters were luxurious by human standards. That evening, as they gathered to discuss their impressions, Samantha lowered her voice. I've been picking up communications between Araxian officials. They don't realize my translation device works on their internal channels. What have you heard? Alan asked quietly. Nothing concrete, but concerning phrases. They refer to humans as a promising servant race and discuss our eventual integration. I don't think they see us as equals. Dr. Rivera nodded grimly. I've noticed how they treat the other alien workers here. It's not partnership. It's more like how we might treat useful animals. The next day, during a tour of what the Araxians called their historical achievement center, Alan managed to separate from the group. He had noticed doors that the Araxians always steered them away from. He slipped through one while Vexcor was explaining a display to the others. The corridor beyond was dimly lit and sloped downward. Alan followed it until he heard voices. Peering around a corner, he saw a group of aliens unlike the Araxians. They were smaller, with forearms and skin that looked like rough bark. They were loading crates onto hovering platforms under the watchful eye of an Araxian guard. When the guard stepped away briefly, Alan approached them. Hello, he whispered. I'm from Earth. One of the aliens looked up in surprise. Human? You are new to them? Yes, I am Zictal of the Tellurian people. Are you part of the Confederacy? Alan asked. Zictal made a sound like dry leaves rustling. We are slaves, not members. My world refused their protection treaty 20 years ago. Now we work for them or die. Before Alan could ask more questions, footsteps approached. Zictal quickly pushed him toward a small maintenance door. Hide. They must not find you here. Alan squeezed into the narrow space as an Araxian patrol passed by. Through a crack in the door, he saw Zictal bow submissively as the guards barked orders. When he finally rejoined the human delegation, Samantha gave him a worried look. Where were you? Vexcor was asking about you? I got lost, Alan lied while Vexcor was out of earshot. But I found something important. We need to talk later. That night, Alan told the others what he had discovered. Samantha confirmed his suspicions with more translations she had intercepted. The Araxians weren't interested in peaceful relations. With Earth, they wanted another subject world. We need to get this information back to Earth, Captain Miller said. But we're still scheduled to be here for another week. I can pretend to be sick, Dr. Rivera suggested. Request an early return. The plan worked better than they expected. The Araxians seemed eager to avoid any potential human illness and quickly arranged for their departure. As they prepared to leave, Zictal secretly approached Alan again. Take this, he said, handing over a small crystal device. It contains records of what they have done to 20 worlds. Show your leaders. Prepare your defenses. The Araxians offer peace until they are ready for conquest. The return journey was tense. The human delegation studied the information from Zictal's device. It showed a clear pattern. The Araxians would make contact with a species, offer technological exchange, propose a protection treaty, and then either receive submission or force it through military action. Earth is next on their list, Samantha said grimly. And based on these records, we have maybe 3 months before they make their move. When they returned to Earth, Alan and Samantha presented their findings to the United Nations Security Council. The evidence was clear and frightening. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. We've been receiving their technology, learning their systems, Admiral Jones said finally. Perhaps that gives us an advantage they don't expect. Secretary General Garcia nodded. We need to accelerate our defense preparations without alerting them to our knowledge. Commander Woods, I want you to continue the diplomatic talks as if nothing has changed. 2 days later, the Araxians presented Earth with a formal document, the Protection Treaty. It was exactly as Zictal had warned. The treaty would place Earth under Araxian guidance, require human forces to serve under Araxian command, and give the aliens control over Earth's resources. In the Grand Meeting Hall of the United Nations. Ambassador Holden delivered Earth's response. While we appreciate the offer of the Araxian Confederacy, Earth must respectfully decline the terms as presented. We propose instead a treaty of mutual cooperation and respect between equals. High Marshal Vexcor's black eyes seemed to grow colder. You misunderstand humans. This is not a negotiation. It is an opportunity for your species to advance under our wisdom. Reconsider your position. Our position is firm, Secretary General Garcia replied. Earth will not surrender its sovereignty. The atmosphere in the diplomatic meetings changed after that. The Araxians became distant, formal, and increasingly demanding. They reduced their technological sharing and began to speak of the unfortunate consequences that befell races that refused Araxian protection. Alan knew they were running out of time. Each day, more Araxian ships arrived in Earth orbit. General Evelyn Patel, head of Earth's newly formed Space Defense Force, reported that their movements suggested preparations for military action. They're positioning themselves for optimal strike coverage of our major cities and military installations, she explained during a closed-door briefing. If they attack, it will be devastating. Then we need to be ready to strike first, Admiral Jones argued. Secretary General Garcia shook her head. Not yet. We continue to prepare, but we do not fire the first shot. Commander Woods, you will meet with Vexcor tomorrow. Buy us more time. As Alan prepared for what might be the last peaceful meeting between humans and Araxians, he wondered if the peace had ever been real at all. Alan entered the meeting room aboard the Araxian command ship with a sense of dread. High Marshal Vexcor waited for him, standing tall and motionless like a statue. 2 Araxian guards flanked the entrance, their weapons visible for the first time in any diplomatic meeting. Commander Woods, Vexcor said, his translated voice colder than ever. Your leaders have made a grave error in judgment. Alan kept his face neutral. We seek only fair and equal relations between our peoples. Equal? Vexcor made a sound that the translator struggled with before rendering it as laughter. Your species has barely left its home planet. You have no equality to claim. Yet we have the right to self-determination, Alan replied. The same right I suspect the Tellurians claimed before you conquered them. Vexcor went very still. You have been speaking with lesser races? That is unfortunate. It seems you require a demonstration of the consequences of defiance. Alan felt a chill run down his spine. What do you mean? You have 48 hours to reconsider the protection treaty. After that, humanity will learn the price of refusal. Vexcor turned away. This meeting is concluded. Back on Earth, Alan reported the exchange to the Emergency Council. The room was tense as military leaders and government officials debated their options. We've been adapting their technology to our defense systems, General Patel explained. But we're not ready. For a full-scale conflict, how much more time do you need? Asked Secretary General Garcia. Weeks, not days, Admiral Jones replied grimly. But I don't think they're going to give us that double quotes. Dr. Bell spoke up. The Araxians value psychological advantage. Their threats are meant to make us surrender without a fight. We need to show them. We won't be intimidated. The meeting was interrupted when an aide rushed in. Madam Secretary, we've lost contact with the Europa Research Station. The room fell silent. The Europa Station was humanity's most distant outpost, a research facility. On Jupiter's ice-covered moon with 47 scientists and engineers. When was the last communication? Admiral Jones demanded. 2 hours ago. They reported unusual energy readings near their position, then went silent. Alan knew instantly what had happened. They started their demonstration. A small fleet launched immediately to investigate. Captain LaVar Miller commanded the mission, with Lieutenant Susan Martinez piloting the lead vessel. 24 hours later, their report confirmed everyone's worst fears. The Europa Station had been completely destroyed. Debris floated in the moon's thin atmosphere, and bodies had been recovered in the vacuum. The attack had been swift and merciless. Scans showed weapon signatures matching Araxian technology. Dr. Frank Collins was found alive in a sealed emergency shelter, the sole survivor. His testimony was recorded and transmitted back to Earth. "They came without warning," he reported, his face pale with shock. 3 ships appeared and opened fire. Director Hayes tried to hail them to ask why they were attacking. They didn't respond, just kept firing until everything was gone. Before Earth could even process this tragedy, alarms sounded at lunar mining facilities. 3 separate attacks occurred within hours. Hundreds of people died as Araxian vessels struck quickly and retreated. The 48-hour deadline had not yet expired. The Araxians were sending a message. This was only the beginning. Admiral Jones refused to wait for more attacks. He mobilized Earth's space fleet, positioning them to defend Mars colonies where the Araxians seemed to be heading next. "They think we'll collapse at the first show of force," Jones told his officers. "They're about to learn how humans respond to bullies." The Admiral's flagship led a formation of 20 ships, the most advanced vessels humanity had built. Many had been retrofitted, with technology reverse-engineered from Araxian designs. They were still outmatched, but not as badly as the Araxians believed. The battle began near the Martian moon Phobos. The Araxian attack force consisted of 5 ships, each larger than Earth's biggest vessel. They approached with obvious confidence. Broadcasting demands for surrender, Admiral Jones responded by firing first. The human fleet launched a coordinated attack that caught the Araxians by surprise. Their shields absorbed most of the damage, but one Araxian ship took a direct hit to its propulsion system. "Continue concentrated fire on the damaged vessel," Jones ordered. The disabled Araxian ship tried to retreat but was cut off by a smaller, faster human vessel. The rest of the Araxian fleet returned fire, destroying 2 human ships instantly. The battle quickly became chaotic as vessels maneuvered for position around Mars. Lieutenant Martinez piloted her craft directly toward the damaged Araxian ship, recording detailed scans of its vulnerable areas. "Their shield harmonics fluctuate when they fire their main weapons," she reported. "There's a 2-second window where they're vulnerable." Admiral Jones ordered all ships to coordinate their attacks to exploit this weakness. The next volley struck the damaged Araxian vessel during this brief window. Its shields failed completely, and the ship began to break apart. The remaining Araxian vessels regrouped and intensified their attack. 3 more human ships were destroyed, and the others took heavy damage. Admiral Jones realized they couldn't win this battle. "All vessels execute retreat pattern Delta," he ordered. "But I want that disabled Araxian ship." "Commander Patterson, prepare a boarding party." As the human fleet retreated toward Earth, Commander Ryan Patterson led a small team onto the crippled Araxian vessel. They had 15 minutes to gather whatever intelligence they could before the charges they placed would destroy the ship. "Download everything from their main computer," Patterson ordered, "and grab any technology we can carry." The team worked quickly, fighting through the ship's unfamiliar layout. They encountered few survivors. Most of the Araxian crew had evacuated to the other vessels. Those they did find fought fiercely. With seconds to spare, Patterson's team returned to their shuttle with valuable data and samples of Araxian technology. As they pulled away, the charges detonated, breaking the alien ship into pieces. Back on Earth, Secretary General Garcia addressed the United Nations in an emergency session. The room was somber as she officially declared a state of war. "Humanity did not choose this conflict," she said. "We offered peace and cooperation. The Araxians responded with unprovoked violence against our people. They have made their intentions clear. Now we make ours clear as well. Humanity will not surrender. We will not become slaves, we will fight." Even as she spoke, long-range sensors detected a large Araxian fleet entering the solar system. Dozens of warships, led by what appeared to be a massive command vessel, moved steadily toward Earth. Alan Woods watched the incoming fleet from the command center beneath Geneva. The Araxians had pushed humanity too far, and now they would learn what humans were truly capable of when fighting for survival. The Araxian attack on Earth began at dawn. Their ships descended through the atmosphere like giant predatory birds, targeting major cities with precision weapons. New York, London, Beijing, and Moscow were hit first, their defense systems overwhelmed. Within minutes, millions died in the initial assault. From his position in the underground command center, Alan watched the destruction with a growing sense of rage. The screens showed burning cities and desperate civilians fleeing for safety. The Araxians had not even demanded surrender before the attack. They had simply started killing. "Status report," Secretary General Garcia demanded, her voice steady. "Despite the chaos, our orbital defenses are at 20% capacity," General Patel replied. "Ground-based missile systems are engaged but largely ineffective against their shields. We have fighters in the air, but they're being shot down faster than they can launch." It seemed hopeless, but Alan noticed that Admiral Jones was strangely calm. The old naval officer was studying a tactical display with intense focus. "The captured Araxian ship is giving us an advantage they don't expect," Jones said. "Dr. Bell and Dr. Rivera have been working around the clock analyzing their technology. In a sealed laboratory hidden deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Samantha Bell and Kevin Rivera had indeed made progress. The Data Commander Patterson's team had provided crucial insights into Araxian systems. Their shield harmonics follow predictable patterns," Samantha explained over a secure channel. "We've identified a critical weakness. When their weapons fire at full power, there's a momentary fluctuation in their shields. If we time our attacks precisely to that moment, we can penetrate their defenses." Dr. Victor Mendez, a weapons engineer working with them, had already developed a modification for human weapon systems. "We can't match their firepower," he said. "But we don't need to. We just need to hit them at exactly the right time." Admiral Jones ordered the information distributed to all remaining human forces. "We're implementing Operation Scattered Thunder," he announced. "All units fall back to your designated positions and await further orders." The retreat confused the Araxians. Their ships pursued human vessels throughout the solar system, but many smaller craft seemed to vanish among the asteroids, planetary rings, and orbital debris. High Marshal Vexcor, directing the attack from the massive command ship, believed victory was near. "The humans scatter like frightened animals," he told his officers. "Soon they will beg for the mercy they rejected." What Vexcor didn't realize was that the retreat was strategic. Commander Woods had proposed a guerrilla campaign using smaller, more maneuverable vessels to harass Araxian supply lines while the main fleet regrouped. Major Linda Ross, a specialist in asymmetric warfare, trained pilots for these missions. "They expect us to fight conventionally," she told her teams. "We won't. We'll strike where they don't expect, then disappear before they can respond." These hit-and-run attacks began to frustrate the Araxians. Their large ships were powerful but lacked the agility to chase human vessels through asteroid fields or the rings of Saturn. Supply ships were targeted and destroyed, forcing the Araxian fleet to conserve resources. Meanwhile, Dr. Bell had established contact with the Tellurian resistance through hidden communication channels. Zictal had spread word of humanity's defiance, inspiring other subjugated species to consider rebellion. "Your stand against the Araxians gives us hope," Zictal told Samantha during a secure transmission. "For generations they have conquered without serious resistance. Now they face a species that refuses to submit. We need allies," Samantha replied. "Can your people help us? We have few ships hidden from Araxian sensors, but we have knowledge of their systems, their strategies, their weaknesses, and we are not the only ones watching this conflict with interest." Within days, representatives from 7 different alien species had made contact with Earth. All had suffered under Araxian rule, and all were willing to share information. Some offered more direct assistance. Fleet Commander Ziklara of the Silurium. Resistance arrived secretly on Earth with technical experts from her world. "Our ships are few," she told Admiral Jones, "but they are equipped with stealth technology the Araxians have never detected. We can slip past their lines with vital supplies and intelligence." The coalition of oppressed species grew. Each brought unique knowledge or technology that humans integrated into their defense systems. Dr. Mendez worked tirelessly to improve human weapons based on their insights. One unexpected breakthrough came from Kira Novak, a 16-year-old programming prodigy, whose father had died in the initial attacks. Working with military coders, she developed an algorithm that could predict Araxian attack patterns with startling accuracy. "They're not as creative as humans," Kira explained when she presented her work to Admiral Jones. "Their tactical algorithms follow specific mathematical sequences. Once you identify the pattern, you can predict their next move." The tide began to turn in small ways. Human fighters equipped with modified weapons managed to destroy Araxian ships by targeting them during the shield fluctuations Dr. Bell had identified. Major Ross's guerrilla units disrupted Araxian operations throughout the solar system. Tellurian stealth ships delivered crucial supplies to human outposts that the Araxians thought they had isolated. Colonel Jason Bradley commanded Earth's last intact orbital defense platform, hidden in high orbit behind a cloud of debris. When 3 Araxian cruisers passed within range, his team used the new targeting data to destroy all 3 with precision strikes. "The humans are adapting too quickly," Vexcor admitted to his senior officers. "Their technological progress is unprecedented. They're learning to exploit weaknesses we didn't know existed." The Araxian Supreme Command responded by dispatching their elite Dreadnought Division to crush the human resistance once and for all. 20 massive warships, each capable of destroying a small moon, joined the fleet already in Earth's solar system. Supreme Commander Verthal assumed personal command of the operation. His reputation for brutality was legendary even among the Araxians. He had overseen the subjugation of countless worlds, always with the same result: total victory. "This ends now," Verthal declared as his fleet approached Earth. "No more games. No more chase. We will destroy their major population centers one by one until they surrender or until their species is extinct." Admiral Jones received the intelligence about the dreadnought fleet from Tellurian scouts. He immediately called an emergency meeting of Earth's military leadership. "They're bringing in their heaviest firepower," he told the assembled officers. "This is both a crisis and an opportunity. They think this is the killing blow, but they're actually putting all their eggs in one basket." "Operation Scattered Thunder is ready," Commander Wood said. "All units are in position." The coalition forces are standing by. We just need to spring the trap. As the Araxian dreadnought fleet moved into Earth orbit, preparing for a devastating attack, humanity appeared to be in full retreat. Defensive systems went offline. Communication channels fell silent. To the Araxians, it looked like surrender was imminent. Supreme Commander Verthal smiled coldly as he gave the order to begin the final assault. "Fire at will. Show no mercy." He had no idea that he was doing exactly what humanity wanted him to do. Supreme Commander Verthal watched with satisfaction as his dreadnought fleet positioned itself above Earth's major cities. The humans appeared to have given up. Their remaining defense systems were offline, their military vessels scattered and in retreat. Victory was at hand, just as it had been on countless worlds before. "Begin the final bombardment," Verthal ordered. "Target their largest population centers first." The massive Araxian weapons charged, energy building to devastating levels. Just as they prepared to fire, Admiral Jones gave the signal that activated Operation Scattered Thunder all across the solar system. Hidden human vessels emerged from concealment. They had been hiding in asteroid fields behind moons within planetary rings and even disguised as space debris in Earth orbit. Simultaneously, Tellurian stealth ships decloaked alongside them. The trap was sprung. "All units, fire on my mark," Admiral Jones commanded from his flagship. "Target their ships during weapon discharge. 3, 2, 1, mark." Hundreds of vessels fired at precisely the same moment, their weapons modified to exploit the shield fluctuations that occurred when Araxian ships discharged their main weapons. The timing was perfect. Dozens of Araxian vessels, including 3 dreadnoughts, suffered direct hits to their vulnerable systems. On the bridge of his flagship, Verthal stared in disbelief as warning alarms blared. "Impossible," he hissed. Their weapons should not be able to penetrate our shields. A second wave of attacks followed immediately. The coalition forces Dr. Bell had helped organize arrived from the outer solar system, hitting the Araxians from another direction. The carefully coordinated assault created chaos in the previously orderly Araxian formation. Commander Woods led a strike team aboard a small, fast vessel with a specific target, Supreme Commander Verthal flagship. Using Kira Novak's predictive algorithm, they plotted a course through the battle that avoided the worst of the fighting. "Stay tight to the plan," Alan told Lieutenant Kelly Wright, his second-in-command. "We get in, complete the mission, and get out." Their ship took heavy damage as they approached the massive Araxian flagship, but Dr. Mendez's modified shields held long enough for them to reach their destination. The boarding team launched from the airlock, using jetpacks to cross the gap. Between vessels inside the Araxian ship, they moved quickly through corridors designed for beings larger than humans. They encountered resistance but pushed forward, following the path Tellurian intelligence had provided to reach the command center. Meanwhile, Dr. Bell executed another critical part of the plan. Using the communication systems of all coalition vessels, she broadcast a message to every Araxian ship in a frequency their internal receivers couldn't block. "Attention all Araxian crew members," her message began. "We have access to your historical archives. Your leaders have lied to you for generations. They have committed atrocities not just against other species, but against your own people." The broadcast included evidence recovered from the captured Araxian vessel, showing how Araxian leadership had executed millions of their own citizens who questioned the policy of endless conquest. It revealed how resources taken from subjugated worlds went not to benefit the Araxian people, but to enrich the ruling class. Across the Araxian fleet, confusion spread. Many younger officers had never heard these facts. Some refused to believe, but seeds of doubt were planted. On several vessels, crew members began to question their commander's orders. Commander Trelvac, a young Araxian officer who had privately harbored doubts about the war, was the first to act. He relieved his superior officer and ordered his crew to cease fire on human targets. 3 other Araxian ships followed his example within minutes. On Verthal's flagship, Alan's team fought their way to the command deck. They breached the massive doors using explosives designed by Dr. Mendez specifically for Araxian metals. Inside, Supreme Commander Verthal stood waiting, flanked by his elite guards. "I underestimated your species," Verthal said as his guards moved forward. "A mistake I will not repeat." The battle was fierce. Lieutenant Wright and 2 other team members fell to Araxian weapons. Alan pressed forward, determined to complete the mission. With covering fire from his remaining team, he managed to reach the main command console. He activated the device Dr. Bell had given him, a virus designed to disable the flagship's weapons and communications. The lights flickered as the system was compromised. Verthal roared in anger and charged at Alan himself. The Araxian Supreme Commander was nearly twice Alan's size, but the human commander had trained in Earth's gravity, stronger than what the Araxians were accustomed to. Alan ducked under Verthal's attack and used the alien's momentum against him, sending him crashing into his own control panel. "Why?" Alan demanded as they faced each other. "Why attack us?" "We offered peace." Verthal's black eyes narrowed. "Because you would have eventually become like us. We've seen it before. Young species with your adaptability, your creativity, your drive to expand, you would have grown too powerful to control. Better to subjugate you now than face you as equals later." "You feared us," Alan realized. "Not what we are, but what we could become." "With good reason," Verthal replied, looking at the battle displays showing his fleet in disarray. "It seems we waited too long." Outside, the tide of battle had turned decisively. Admiral Jones' coordinated attack had destroyed or disabled half the Araxian fleet. The modified human weapons continued to exploit the shield weakness, while Tellurian stealth ships delivered devastating precision strikes to vulnerable areas. Most surprising was the growing number of Araxian vessels that had ceased fighting. Commander Trelvac's mutiny had spread, With more officers choosing to stand down rather than continue a war they now questioned. Dr. Bell's broadcast continued, revealing more Araxian leadership secrets. The pattern of conquest, the lies told to their own people, the resources hoarded by the ruling class while ordinary Araxians struggled, all were exposed for the fleet to hear. On the flagship, Alan secured Supreme Commander Verthal as a prisoner. The Araxian leader seemed resigned now, watching as his grand fleet fell apart around him. "You should kill me," Verthal said. "It's what we would do." "That's the difference between us," Alan replied. "We're not like you. We never were." Within hours, the battle was over. The remaining Araxian vessels surrendered, many of them now under the command of officers who had mutinied against their superiors. Commander Trelvac emerged as their spokesman, requesting a ceasefire and negotiations. 1 month later, representatives from Earth, the Araxian reformists, and the coalition of formerly subjugated species gathered in the United Nations Hall in Geneva. The room had been rebuilt after the attacks, a symbol of humanity's resilience. Secretary General Garcia opened the historic meeting. "Today we begin a new chapter in galactic history. Not as conquerors or conquered, but as equals seeking a just peace." The Araxian Confederacy was dissolved. In its place, a new galactic council was formed, with representatives from all species having equal voice. Commander Trelvac led the Araxian delegation, promising reforms and reparations to worlds his people had harmed. Dalan Wood stood at the observatory window of the rebuilt International Space Station, much as he had when the Araxians first arrived. Dr. Samantha Bell joined him, watching Earth below. "Do you think it will last?" she asked. "This peace?" Alan considered the question. "It will take work, understanding, forgiveness, but yes, I think it can last. Because we're different?" "Because we chose to be different," Alan replied. "We could have destroyed them when we had the chance. Instead, we offered them another way." Across the solar system, reconstruction had begun. Earth cities were rebuilding. The Mars colonies were expanding. Humans worked alongside Tellurians, Araxians, and other species learning from each other. Peace was finally on the table. This time it seemed everyone was willing to keep it there.